About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on roads with dense bushes and trees on either side, the real creepy ones you see a lot in movies. Anyway, I had been driving about 45 minutes, and I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass behind some bushes to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock, 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and it was now 12:40. This time, it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car. But why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rearview mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now, at the time, I thought it was the hook killer, you know, the one that scratched the couple's car and then saw the guy when he got out to investigate. That I thought to myself, so I got out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a car, parked off to the side of the road with the driver's side door opened. I slowed down just to look to see if anyone was in there. There wasn't. Then, I looked in my rearview mirror. I didn't see anything, when all of a sudden this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, "Hey! Hey you! Get out of your car! Now!" I noped out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. The moral of the story? Don't sleep on the side of a deserted road. This happened in 2003, and I was 17. I live in the Central Valley of California, and at the time I lived in the country. These douchebags invaded 16 houses within 3 months. They were gang members from Los Angeles. I heard yelling outside of my house. It was around 2 a.m. I first thought that it was my friends TPing my house, but not for long. There was a huge, loud bang. The front door was open. We found out later that they used a sledgehammer, which of course, deadbolts won't work. I hid under the covers and prayed. I heard my mom yell, "They have a gun!" But later I found out that she said call 911, which rhymes. Nonetheless, it was quiet after that for a couple minutes. It seemed like they weren't even gonna come in my room. Eventually they did, and the guy was wearing a black ski mask and said, "Where's your cell phone? Where's your cell phone?" I did not have one at the time, and I kept saying that I don't have one. He put a gun to my head and asked me again. I cried and said, "I seriously don't have a cell phone." He took out zip ties and tied my hands behind my back. Zip ties freaking hurt. My hands were numb for 6 months after this happened. My first thought was, holy shit, he's going to rape me. After this, he walked around my room. He opened drawers and looked around, and I remember feeling pissed off. He had no right to be in my house and go through my things. He left my door cracked open. I could see that there was no one in the hallway. Although I heard voices in my parents' bedroom, 2 other men were in there. He was standing in the far corner of my room, and I decided to try to make a run for it. The front door of my parents' house is close to my room. I get up, my bed squeaks, and he yelled, "Get down!" So I did. He then zip-tied my ankles and picked me up, really awkwardly since my wrists are already tied, and put me in my brother's room. where he was already zip-tied and laid face down in his bed. He positioned me the same way. He said, "Your parents are cooperating," and walked away. I guess that was supposed to comfort us. My brother was 14 at the time. We whispered back and forth a little bit, but the guy would come back and yell at us to shut up. We were tied up like this for 4+ hours. They literally destroyed my parents' bedroom, taking all my mom's jewelry and some cash that was stashed. They found my dad's office, which is connected to the garage, and they wanted to get in. They cut off my dad's zip ties, and my dad had to walk out there in only a t-shirt. He turned off the alarm on the office, and they wanted inside my dad's safe. Didn't have much in it though, just keys, as my dad owns a janitorial business. My dad told them there was no money in it, but they wanted it in anyways. Here's a miracle for you guys. My dad can never open the safe the first time. He rarely opens it. He uses it for backups of keys. Usually, it takes him 3 tries to open it, so my dad looks down at the spinner with the numbers on it, and he can't see them without his glasses. He tells the guy, "I need my glasses. I can't see the numbers." And he was impatient and said, "Just open it." My dad looked down again, and he said the numbers were blurry. Then a second later, they were clear as day. And he opened the safe on the first try. I believe God was definitely helping him there. After that, I found out that one of the guys asked if he could make in the kitchen a sandwich. My dad, with his crazy sense of humor, said, "Sure, why not? Make yourselves at home." They never made a sandwich. Eventually, they came in where me and my brother were, and the guy picked me up and put me back in my room and left. We didn't hear any voices for a while, and I figured they had left. I was still zip-tied, so I couldn't really do anything. A few minutes later, my dad came in and cut off my zip ties, and we all ran to the neighbor's house. My dad grabbed a kitchen knife just in case. We didn't have guns in our house. We made it to the neighbors, and the cops came and were at our house all day. We were interviewed and photographed. It wasn't until I was 20 years old that this all went to court and I testified. Overall, we didn't have many injuries. They had punched my mom in the face when she said call 911, and she bled a little, but no teeth were knocked out or anything. We all had numbness for months after being zip-tied for about 5 hours. The other home invasion victims in my area were not so lucky. They stayed in our house the longest, but 2 women were raped in front of their families, and one guy was nearly drowned in his hot tub. I remember feeling a ton of different emotions during this whole thing. I was panicked, angry, scared, and sometimes I would exit at peace because I knew if they shot me that I would go to heaven. Today I'm still very hypervigilant. I wake up at the smallest sound outside. Definitely have some PTSD symptoms. My family went to group therapy for a couple sessions. Most of the time now we are okay. I used to think about it every single day for a few years. Now it's going on 10 years, and just writing this today made me cry a little for the first time in a few years. But this is good therapy.